In 2007, Brett Ryan, a 26-year-old man from Toronto, Canada, was widely recognized for his friendly and charming demeanor. He was known for his ever-present smile and often spent his spare time volunteering at children's hospitals, reading to sick kids, and serving as an umpire for Little League baseball games at the community center. However, beneath his seemingly perfect exterior, Brett was grappling with personal challenges. After dropping out of college and accumulating a substantial debt of over $60,000, he moved back in with his parents, while his friends pursued successful careers in fields like medicine, finance, and education. Brett believed that his debt was the primary obstacle preventing him from achieving the life he had envisioned.
This morning here on Lawndale Road in Scarborough, you can see a forensics tent sent up on the driveway of this home. This is where one body was found. Two more were found in the rear of the property. Neighbors tell me that a mother and two grown sons lived in this home, but we don't know if they were the two males and female found dead here. This neighbor was at home about 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon. You said all of a sudden you heard a knock on the door.
It wasn't a knock. The guy was hammering on the door. I opened the door and he practically fell into my arms, practically knocked me over. He staggered into the front room and fell on the floor. He said, "Call 911. My brother's bleeding in the driveway. Make sure the police come."
Rather than working hard to pay off his debts, Brett decided to concoct an unconventional, get-rich-quick scheme that surprisingly yielded results. On October 20th of that year, he entered a bank near his home, disguising himself with bandages wrapped around his head and a sling on his left arm. He handed a note to a teller claiming to have a gun under the sling and demanding $2,000. The teller promptly complied, giving him just over $1,000. Brett calmly left the bank, and to his amazement, the police did not apprehend him. Encouraged by this success, Brett continued robbing a dozen other banks over the next 8 months, amassing nearly $30,000. He became so confident in his ability to avoid capture that he started wearing eccentric disguises, earning him the moniker, the fake bearded bandit from the media. Brett's ability to evade capture was due to the fact that, as he had no prior criminal record, his fingerprints were not in the police database. Consequently, law enforcement relied on surveillance and stakeouts to catch him in the act. In the summer of 2008, they finally arrested the fake bearded bandit, leading to his trial. During the trial, numerous friends and organizations he had volunteered with vouched for Brett, describing him as a great individual facing extreme desperation and a departure from his usual character. In his statement to the court, Brett expressed remorse, acknowledging that his overwhelming debt had driven him to poor decisions. The judge considered these factors and handed down a relatively lenient sentence of just under 4 years, given the gravity of the crimes. Less than 2 years later, in 2010, Brett was granted parole and allowed to return to his parents' home. His family observed a significant change in him and believed he was ready for a fresh start. Nevertheless, life as an ex-convict posed enormous challenges. Securing employment was difficult, leaving him with no income to repay his debts. Ultimately, he had to declare bankruptcy. His family was also deeply embarrassed by his criminal past, leading them to relocate to another Toronto neighborhood to escape the constant neighborhood gossip. Once settled in the new neighborhood, Brett resolved to rebuild his life independently. He applied for numerous jobs and eventually secured low-paying work in the retail sector. His parents, seeing his dedication, offered financial support so that he could return to college and complete his degree in biophysics. During his time in school, Brett met Kristen, who had a stable job and an attractive home. They fell in love, and despite Brett's past as the fake bearded bandit, Kristen accepted him without judgment. 2 years later, Brett moved in with Kristen, and for the first time in his life, he felt that his life was moving in the right direction. However, tragedy struck when Brett's father passed away in 2015. Brett began spending more time at his mother's house, providing assistance, which she appreciated. She even paid him for his help, which was a significant financial relief for the broke college student. This experience brought Brett and his mother closer. In 2015, Brett proposed to Kristen, and she accepted. However, Brett dropped out of college in secret, too embarrassed to admit it to his family and fiancée. He continued pretending to attend school and graduated with a bachelor's degree in biophysics in the spring of 2016. Shortly after his graduation, Brett secured a job offer from a tech firm in Toronto. However, his life took a sudden and devastating turn when the job offer was rescinded due to his criminal past as the fake bearded bandit. Brett panicked, as this job was crucial to maintaining the illusion of having a degree and a successful life. Instead of revealing the truth, he opted to lie and pretend to go to work every day. His family and fiancée were puzzled when they weren't invited to his graduation ceremony, but remained excited for his apparent success. Brett decided to maintain the facade, continuing to pretend to go to work. His mother, who had initially been supportive, later insisted that he must confess the truth to Kristen before the wedding. Brett feared that revealing his deception would lead Kristen to leave him and ruin his perfect life. In a desperate attempt to preserve his lies, Brett made a shocking and horrifying decision. He decided to kill his mother. Unable to obtain a firearm due to his criminal record, he purchased a crossbow, watched instructional videos online, and hid it along with arrows in her garage. He also devised a series of contraptions that created the illusion of his presence at home while he was out committing the murder. On August 25, 2017, Brett executed his chilling plan. He waited for Kristen to leave for work and then returned to his house to set up the alibi devices. He subsequently drove to his mother's house and confronted her about revealing his deception to Kristen. When she refused to cooperate, their heated exchange turned violent, leading to an intense physical struggle. During this confrontation, Brett killed his mother. Afterwards, when his older brother Chris was called to mediate, Brett, realizing the depth of his deception, resorted to extreme measures to maintain his false life. In a tragic turn of events, Brett murdered Chris when he entered the garage. Brett concealed the bodies of his mother and brother in the garage, intending to continue his deceit. However, his younger brother, AJ, arrived at the scene. Desperate to prevent the truth from emerging, Brett engaged in a confrontation with AJ. Using one of the arrows as a weapon, he killed AJ, leaving a trail of chaos and tragedy. The last surviving family member, Lee, was the only one to escape the violence. He suffered severe injuries, but managed to flee and get help. A neighbor assisted AJ and called the police. After his arrest, Brett expressed remorse for his actions and admitted his guilt during the trial. The judge acknowledged the web of lies that had ensnared Brett and the desperation that had led to his heinous crimes, but ultimately sentenced him to 3 consecutive life terms for each of the murders he committed. Brett's family was irrevocably shattered by the events, with Lee struggling with severe post-traumatic stress and the loss of his loved ones.
Autopsies were performed on the 3 deceased individuals, which I'd like to share with you at this time. The cause of death of the woman found in the standalone garage was ligature strangulation. The cause of death of the man found in the standalone garage was crossbow bolt stab wound to the neck. The cause of death of the man located on the driveway was a single arrow's head stab wound to the neck.